Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم اهدي قلبي وسدد لساني واسلل سخيمة قلبي آمين يا رب العالمين. Inshallah, we will continue with our study of Surah Qasas, and today, inshallah, we will begin from ayah number 36. Now, in Surah Qasas, so far in the story of Musa alayhi salam, we were at the point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave prophethood to Musa alayhi salam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed Musa alayhi salam to go to Fir'aun. And Musa alayhi salam expressed his fears, his hesitations, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reassured him that Musa alayhi salam would be given victory. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equipped him with the resources that Musa alayhi salam needed in order to meet this challenge. And those resources were, first and foremost, the miracles that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. And secondly, the help of his brother Harun alayhi salam, who was also given prophethood. So Musa alayhi salam did not have to do this work alone by himself. So then we learn in ayah number 36, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ. But when Musa alayhi salam came to them, جَاءَهُمْ came to them, meaning to Fir'aun and his people, he came to them بِآيَاتِنَا, he brought them our ayat, and these ayat, these signs, these miracles, these evidences were bayinat. They were very, very clear. Yani these miracles were clearly true, meaning their truth was evident. Nobody who saw them could deny them, could deny their truthfulness. We see, for example, when the magicians of Fir'aun, when they witnessed the miracle of Musa alayhi salam, where he threw his stick and it turned into a snake, those expert magicians, they knew, they understood that what Musa alayhi salam showed was not actually magic. This was something far beyond the power of magic. And this is why all of those magicians believed. So the ayat that Musa alayhi salam presented, they were bayinat, they were clear evidences. Bayinat is a plural of the word bayyinah, and bayyinah is a clear evidence. It's from bayyin. Bayyin is something which is evident itself, and it also clarifies or makes something else evident. So Musa alayhi salam, he showed those miracles, and along with those miracles, Musa alayhi salam also gave proofs and evidences in his speech. So we learned that, for instance, when Fir'aun asked Musa alayhi salam that, what is this Lord of the worlds that you're talking about? Musa alayhi salam, he responded. He gave very clear evidences. So for example, in Surah Al-Shu'ara, we learn that قَالَ فِرْعَوْنُ وَمَا رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ, that Fir'aun asked him that, what is this Lord of the worlds that you're talking about? Musa alayhi salam, he answered, he said, قَالَ رَبُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا in kuntum muqinin, that he is the Lord of the skies and the earth and whatever that is in between them, meaning the entire existence. The Lord of the worlds is the Lord of all of this. So Fir'aun, he was really taken aback by this response. He said, قَالَ لِمَنْ حَوْلَهُ أَلَا تَسْتَمِعُونَ. Fir'aun said to those who were around him, do you not listen to what Musa is saying? Musa alayhi salam went on. He said, قَالَ رَبُّكُمْ وَرَبُّ آبَائِكُمُ الْأَوَّلِينَ, that he is your Lord and also the Lord of your forefathers, the earlier ones, meaning those who came before you. Allah is their Lord as well. So Fir'aun got really angry at this point, and he said, قَالَ إِنَّ رَسُولَكُمُ الَّذِي أُرْسِلَ إِلَيْكُمْ لَمَجْنُونَ. He said that indeed your messenger who has been sent to you is surely a madman. Meaning he called Musa alayhi salam a majnoon, a madman. Musa alayhi salam didn't stop there. He continued to give evidences. He said, رَبُّ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا. Allah is the Lord of the east and the west and whatever that is in between them. Now Fir'aun got really angry and he said, لَإِنِ اتَّخَذْتَ إِلَهًا غَيْرِي لَأَجْعَلَنَّكَ مِنَ الْمَسْجُونِينَ. If you dare to take another God besides me, I am going to imprison you. I am going to put you in a dungeon. قال أولو جئتك بشيء مبين. Musa alayhi salam said, even if I bring to you something very clear, meaning even if I show you a clear evidence. So then Fir'aun said, فَأْتِ بِهِ إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. Then show it if you are of those who are truthful. So then, after giving logical proofs, then Musa alayhi salam showed the miracle. فألقى عصاه فإذا هي ثعبان مبين. Musa alayhi salam threw his stick and it turned into a clear snake. ونزع يده فإذا هي بيضاء للناظرين. And he pulled out his hand and it was shining white for those who could see. And then Fir'aun said, قال للملأ حوله إن هذا لساحر عليم. Fir'aun said to his chiefs who were sitting with him that indeed this man is surely a magician who is very knowledgeable. And that is what is mentioned over here also, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَمَّا جَاءَهُم مُوسَى بِآيَاتِنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ. Musa alayhi salam gave clear evidences, logical evidences. And then he also showed the miracles. قالوا, they said, meaning Fir'aun and his people, their response was that مَا هَذَا إِلَّا سِحْرٌ مُفْتَرًى. This is not except invented magic. Meaning, he basically said that the miracles of Musa alayhi salam were some form of magic, some new kind of magic. Sihrun muftara. Muftara is from the root faraya, and iftira is to invent, to fabricate something. So he said this is only fabricated magic. Now this is something interesting because Fir'aun is calling the miracles of Musa alayhi salam magic. Why? Because magic is all that Fir'aun knew. Magic is what he used. Magic is what he used to control his kingdom, to control his people, to maintain his power. And this is why in his nation there were so many magicians, any expert magicians. And this is the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala equipped Musa alayhi salam with these kind of miracles. Because every prophet was given a miracle that would be that was relevant to his nation, meaning something that the nation would truly be amazed by, would truly be impressed by. Not just to impress them, but to really convince them that this cannot be the work of a human, because they knew what magic is. They knew what the limits of magic were. And what Musa alayhi salam showed was beyond the limits of magic. So they said that this is magic. Now Fir'aun called it magic because that is all that he knew. And he also called the miracles magic in order to belittle the miracles. As if he was, calling the miracles magic in order to insult them, in order to belittle them. And this is so hypocritical. You see, if Fir'aun used magic, right? If his own people used magic, that was perfectly fine. But if someone else was using magic, then that was not okay. Not that Musa alayhi salam was showing magic. No, this was not sihr. This was ayat of Allah. However, in Fir'aun's opinion, this was magic. And for Musa to use magic was not okay. You see the double standard over here. You see the hypocrisy over here. And then we see that he called what Musa alayhi salam showed him sihrun muftara. Muftara, fabricated, invented. And what is meant by this is that this is newly invented. This is a kind of magic that was unknown before. Right? So Musa is presenting some new form of magic, or he has invented it and he is attributing it to God, or that this is invented meaning by himself. Right? This is something that he has made himself. This is actually from himself, and he is attributing it to God. So he said this is not except invented magic. In Surah Taha, ayah number 71 also, we learn that when Fir'aun accused Musa alayhi salam of using magic, and he brought his magicians to compete with Musa alayhi salam, and all of those magicians believed in Musa alayhi salam, Fir'aun said, إِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرُكُمُ الَّذِي عَلَّمَكُمُ السِّحْرِ, that Musa is just your elder who has taught you guys magic. He is the one who has taught you magic. Astaghfirullah. The truth was so evident, yet he called the truth magic. Even though the truth prevailed, right? It prevailed, it won. Yet Fir'aun was not willing to accept it. The expert magicians even, they recognized the truth of Musa alayhi salam. They surrendered, but Fir'aun was not willing to accept. And it was only falsehood that he was clinging on to. And we see that from the beginning, Fir'aun used different ways to avoid the truth, to not accept the truth somehow. Here it is mentioned that he called it magic, right? And we learn in Surah Al-Shu'ara that when Fir'aun, when Musa alayhi salam spoke to Fir'aun, Fir'aun's initial response was, the first thing he did was that he attempted to disparage Musa alayhi salam, to insult him, to demean him, and to really assail his character. So we see he said first, قال ألم نربك فينا وليدا. Fir'aun began his response to Musa alayhi salam by saying that, did we not raise you amongst us as a child? We are the ones who did you a favor. We raised you as one of our own. وَلَبِثْتَ فِينَا مِنْ عُمُرِكَ سِنِينَ, and you stayed with us of your life many years, meaning you remained with us for many years of your life. And then وَفَعَلْتَ فَعْلَتَكَ الَّتِي فَعَلْتَ وَأَنْتَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ, and you did the deed which you did, meaning you know exactly what you did. You murdered a man. And then وَأَنْتَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ, and you were of those who denied, meaning you were extremely ungrateful. You left. So Musa alayhi salam, he defended himself. قَالَ فَعَلْتُهَا إِذًا وَأَنَا مِنَ الضَّالِّينَ. Yes, I did it back then, and I made a mistake. And then فَفَرَرْتُ مِنْكُمْ لَمَّا خِفْتُكُمْ, I ran away from you when I feared you. فَوَهَبَ لِي رَبِّي حُكْمًا, and then my Lord granted me wisdom. وَجَعَلَنِي مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ, and he made me of the messengers. وَتِلْكَ نِعْمَةٌ تَمُنُّهَا عَلَيَّ أَنْ عَبَّدْتَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ, and this is a favor that you are تَمُنُّهَا عَلَيَّ, which you could say means you're rubbing it. You're basically showing that you did a huge favor to me. You're bragging about it. Why did you have to do this favor to me, that you raised me? It's because you had enslaved the Bani Israel, right? It's because of that I ended up in your home, and you had to raise me. So we see that from the beginning, Fir'aun tried to avoid accepting the truth. He began by attacking the character of Musa alayhi salam. And then when he was shown the miracles, he called it magic. So Musa alayhi salam responded to that. In Surah Yunus, ayah 77, we learn, قَالَ مُوسَى أَتَقُولُونَ لِلْحَقِّ لَمَّا جَاءَكُمْ أَسِّحْرٌ هَذَا, that do you say about the truth when it has come to you that this is magic? How dare you call this magic? This is not magic. So Fir'aun tried any different ways to avoid accepting the truth of the message of Musa alayhi salam. And then the ayah continues. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that Fir'aun said, وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا فِي آبَائِنَا الْأَوَّلِينَ, and we have not heard of this among our forefathers. What Musa is saying is something that we have never heard of before. This is something completely new, completely strange, completely unfamiliar. It's not, backed by any of our traditions or our culture or our knowledge. وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا فِي آبَائِنَا الْأَوَّلِينَ. And وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا, we have not heard of this. We have never ever heard of this in our lives. في آبائنا الأولين, amongst our forefathers, al-awwalin, the first ones. Awwalin is a plural of awwal, and aba is the plural of ab. Meaning our ancient forefathers, even who came way before us, even they never mentioned anything like that. Anything like what Musa is saying. And what is it that Musa alayhi salam was saying? Musa alayhi salam was telling them that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah. And so Fir'aun said that we have never heard of this, right? Or Musa alayhi salam said that I am the messenger of the Lord of the worlds. So Fir'aun is saying that we have never heard any human being, being given prophethood. So the concept of prophethood, this religion that Musa has brought, this concept of there is only one God, this is all something new. We have never heard of this. Now, is this true? Is it that never before had the people of Fir'aun heard about the concept of prophethood? Is that the case? No, actually, it is not the case. What Fir'aun was saying over here was a complete lie. Why? Because the people of Fir'aun were very familiar with Yusuf alayhi salam. And Yusuf alayhi salam was a prophet of Allah, right? We learn that the Bani Israel, why were they in Egypt? They were in Egypt because they were the descendants of the children of Yaqub alayhi salam. And how is it that Yaqub alayhi salam and his children ended up in Egypt? Through Yusuf alayhi salam. When Yusuf alayhi salam, he had a very high position in Egypt, and his brothers came, and he revealed his identity to them, and he told them that bring your families over here, right? And his parents came, his family came, everybody came, and we learn in Surah Yusuf that he وَرَفَعَ أَبَوَيْهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ وَخَرُّوا لَهُ سُجَّدًا. That Yusuf alayhi salam raised, he brought his parents up on his throne. So Yusuf alayhi salam had a throne, meaning a high seat of honor in Egypt, right? His parents were there. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he used his position to call people to Allah. He did not hide that part of his identity. And we learn about that clearly mentioned in Surah Yusuf, where Yusuf alayhi salam was in the prison, and he invited his inmates to the worship of Allah alone. So the people of Fir'aun, they knew about the concept of prophethood. They knew that there are people who only worship one God, right? The Bani Israel, who were they? Bani Israel were living in Egypt along with the people of Fir'aun. And what religion did they observe? What God did they worship? They worshipped only one God, right? So what Fir'aun is saying over here is a complete lie. وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا فِي آبَائِنَا الْأَوَّلِينَ. In Surah Ghafir, ayah number 34, this is mentioned, that when Fir'aun decided to kill Musa alayhi salam, a man from the family of Fir'aun actually spoke up. And he is described as Rajulun Mu'min, a believing man. And he said that وَلَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ يُوسُفُ مِنْ قَبْلُ بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, that Yusuf had already come to you before with clear proofs. And you know about Yusuf, he was a messenger, he lived among you. And then later on in the verse it is said, حَتَّى إِذَا هَلَكَ, when he died, قُلْتُمْ لَنْ يَبْعَثَ اللَّهُ مِنْ بَعْدِهِ رَسُولًا, you said that Allah will never send another messenger again. And you made that up yourself. So Fir'aun and his people were very familiar with the concept of prophethood. They were very familiar with the concept of believing in one God. Yet they said over here, وَمَا سَمِعْنَا بِهَذَا فِي آبَائِنَا الْأَوَّلِينَ, that we have never heard of this before among our forefathers. And this was a lie to basically refute what Musa alayhi salam was saying. So then Musa alayhi salam responded, وَقَالَ مُوسَى رَبِّي أَعْلَمُ بِمَنْ جَاءَ بِالْهُدَى مِنْ عِنْدِهِ. And Musa alayhi salam said that my Lord is more knowing of who has come with guidance from him. My Lord is most knowing. He knows best about who has brought guidance from him. وَمَنْ تَكُونُ لَهُ عَاقِبَةُ الدَّارِ, and to whom will be the succession in the home. Allah knows, even though you say that I am lying, even though you're saying that I have presented magic, even though you're saying that I have invented all of this, still Allah knows about who has brought guidance from him. And who was that? It was Musa alayhi salam. Musa alayhi salam had been sent with this guidance, right? وَمَنْ تَكُونُ لَهُ عَاقِبَةُ الدَّارِ, and Allah knows about who will have the succession in the home. Now, عَاقِبَةُ الدَّارِ, عَاقِبَة is outcome, and ad-dar is home. The outcome of the home, what does this mean? This has been understood as a good consequence, because only those will end up in paradise who are successful in the sight of Allah, right? So aqibatud dar, one is understood as paradise. Another interpretation is that it's referring to a good outcome in the world, meaning who is it that will live on? Who is it that will survive? وَمَنْ تَكُونُ لَهُ عَاقِبَةُ الدَّارِ. Now, Musa alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised him victory and success, right? Even before Musa alayhi salam came to deliver the message. So Musa alayhi salam made clear over here that Allah is more knowing. إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Indeed, wrongdoers do not succeed. Now, this is such a powerful statement. This is such a comforting statement that when people don't believe you, when people twist the truth, right? When people are not willing to accept the facts, and how are you supposed to convince a person who denies reality? How are you supposed to change the heart of a person who does not want to accept the truth that is so evident before his eyes? You can't force them to accept. And if you make it your life mission that I have to convince them, you're going to be miserable. At such times, your only comfort is that Allah knows the truth, that Allah knows the reality, right? And the outcome of all actions, its decision lies with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I put my trust in Allah. Because when you know that you are being honest, when you know that that you are on the truth, you are not guilty of what people are accusing you of. It's a very hurtful thing to be rejected, right? It's very painful to know that people are not accepting the facts. It's very painful to know that people are twisting your words. And if you make it your mission to try to convince people that my goal is that I have to convince them, I have to make them accept me, then you will never succeed and you will only be miserable. So at such times, your source of comfort should be what? Allah knows the truth. Allah knows the truth. You see, when Aisha radiallahu anha was accused of a sin she never committed, right? What was her response? That فَصَبْرٌ جَمِيلٌ, that I am going to observe beautiful patience. وَاللَّهُ مُسْتَعَانٌ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ, and Allah is the one whose help is sought against that which you fabricate, that which you invent. She repeated the words of Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub alayhi salam also, and he exhibited so much patience. So, we don't have control over the hearts and minds of people. We don't have control over that. We don't have the power to make people love us, to make people accept us. We can only convey to them. And ultimately, we can only find comfort in knowing the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows who is right and who is wrong. And I put my trust in Allah, and we should believe that إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ, that the wrongdoers do not succeed. The wrongdoers do not succeed. Now, this is this is a warning. لا يفلح الظالمون. Who are ظالمون? ظالمون are people who commit ظلم. And what is ظلم? ظلم, generally we understand this as injustice, right? Or oppression. And why is it that people commit oppression? Why is it that people use their power and their force and the resources that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them to abuse others? Why? In order to accomplish something, in order to gain something. But this effort is completely counterproductive, because the force, the resources that people are using to oppress others in order to accomplish certain goals, will they ever accomplish those goals? No, because إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. The fact is that the ظالمون, the people who commit oppression, will never succeed. So never use oppression as a means to accomplish your goals. Because while we can see people using different forms of injustice, right, to get somewhere, we see that their success is temporary. Their so-called success is it's very short-lived, because ultimately the zalimun can never succeed, right? Dhulm is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not tolerate in the world, in the sense that the zalim is allowed to enjoy his freedom for some time, but then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seizes him, right? He stops him. أخذه. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seizes the zalim, and then the zalim, he no longer has any freedom. So إنه لا يفلح الظالمون. Now, dhulm is also understood as, one understanding of dhulm is that it is oppression or injustice, right? Why? Because dhulm is defined as placing something where it does not belong, right? But dhulm is also, remember, dhulm is also to cause loss, okay? To cause loss to someone, meaning to not give someone what they deserve, okay? For example, in the Quran, we learn about the story of the man who owned 2 gardens, right? And his gardens are described in the Quran in great detail. And one of the description is that كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا. That both the gardens produced their yield, and they did not cause him any loss. Meaning, every harvest, whatever the man expected, is what he got. It was never the case that he got less than what he expected. Lam tadlim, there was no deficiency, right? So dhulm is also to not give others what they deserve, to cause them loss, okay, to deprive them of what they deserve. And was Fir'aun doing that? Absolutely he was. What is the right of a prophet of Allah? That he is believed in. What is the right of the truth, of the facts, that they are accepted, that they are not twisted, that they are not rejected. So people who deny reality, people who twist the truth, people who don't accept others, who are not willing to give others what they deserve, whether it is in tangible matters or in matters which are intangible, in either case, this is dhulm. So, for example, a form of dhulm is that people are not given the share of inheritance which they deserve, rightfully deserve. They're deprived, right? One person who has more power over the matter, they just come and take over everything, and the legal heirs are deprived. Another form of dhulm is that people are neglected, children are neglected, spouses are neglected. They're not given the rights that they deserve in that relationship. So people who deprive others of their rights, then such people will never succeed. Ultimately, such people will suffer loss. Momentarily, For now in the world, yes, they might enjoy, a lot of power, or they might enjoy a few $1,000s. They might enjoy owning a certain property. They might enjoy, all the time that they have to themselves, all the things that they are enjoying by depriving others. But you know what? Ultimately, such people will not succeed. إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. And what was Fir'aun doing over here? Dhulm upon dhulm, right? He was not willing to accept the prophethood of Musa alayhi salam because that meant stepping down. That meant accepting someone else's superiority, someone else's power, right? That meant submitting to Allah. And that would mean losing a lot of privileges that Fir'aun was enjoying at this point. So, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. The truth hurts, but our success lies in accepting the truth. And if we commit oppression, if we commit injustice, if we go on depriving others of their rights, then ultimately we are the ones who will suffer. إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. And this is why we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from committing injustice. Right? وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ أَنْ أَظْلِمَ أَوْ أُظْلَمَ. That, oh Allah, protect me. I seek your refuge from committing oppression and also from being a victim of oppression. Ya Allah, you save me. That I do not do dhulm on others, and I also do not become a victim of other people's dhulm on me. Now what happened? وَقَالَ فِرْعَوْنُ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَأُ. And Fir'aun said, يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَأُ, O eminent ones. Mala, this is a word that we have come across a few times. Mala is basically used for the leaders or the elders of a people, right? The chiefs, you could say, the people who are eminent. And they're called Mala because Mala is from the root Mim, Lam, Hamza, and Mil is the fill of something. Okay. So for example, when we get up from Rukur, one of the ways in which the Prophet ﷺ would glorify Allah, mil as-samawati wa mil al-ardi, right? That, oh Allah, I praise you as much as as much praise as that which will fill the skies and which will fill the earth. Mil as-samawat wa mil al-ard. Okay, so why is it that Mala are called Mala? Because such people, what do? They fill the hearts of people with awe, right? They fill the hearts of people with admiration. So Fir'aun said to his nobles, to his chiefs, right? To the people who were closest to him, to the people who were in his court, right? His courtiers. He said to them, he started brainwashing them, right? That ma alimtu lakum min ilahin ghayri. I want you to think about this statement. He said, I do not know for you any God besides me. Meaning, in my knowledge, the only God that you have is me. The only being that you worship and you should be worshiping is me. According to my knowledge, مَا عَلِمْتُ لَكُم مِّن إِلَهٍ غَيْرِي. So basically, he is claiming that he is supposed to be worshipped. Allah is not supposed to be worshipped. Astaghfirullah. And he literally considered himself as a rival to Allah. Right? And this is the definition of taghut, right? That someone who rebels against, who rebels, who goes beyond the limits that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for people. That from ubudiyah, from servitude, right? This person or this individual goes into the right of Allah, claiming that he deserves worship. So Fir'aun said that I am the only God that you have. You're supposed to be worshiping only me. And this God that Musa is talking about, I don't think that God exists at all. Now, he said, Ma alimtu lakum min ilahin ghayri. I do not know of any God for you besides me. He did not say, Ma lakum min ilahin ghayri, that you do not have a God besides me. But he said, I do not know of any God for you other than me. Why is he talking about, according to my knowledge? Because to them, Fir'aun was the most knowledgeable. right? They blindly followed Fir'aun. They adored him. So even if he said the most atrocious things, he said the most immoral, factually incorrect things, they believed him. They supported him. They followed him. They obeyed him. He said, kill babies. They did that. He said, discriminate against and oppress an entire people. The people, an entire people who follow a certain religion, they did that. They enslaved Bani Israel. They tortured Bani Israel. Why? Because they believed in Fir'aun. They literally took him as a god. And why is it that they adored him so much? Because they also benefited from him, right? They benefited from him. They benefited from this relationship. Fir'aun benefited by controlling them, and they benefited by being controlled by Fir'aun, right? They enjoyed a life of ease. They enjoyed a life of, superiority over Bani Israel by oppressing the Bani Israel. They were the ones who were, enjoying the comforts of this life. So why wouldn't they support Fir'aun? So the thing is that leaders are nothing without their people. And we should also remember that a leader is actually a representative of a people, because it is their mutual cooperation, right, that allows that allows their leader to be over them, right? And it was through their mutual cooperation that Pharaoh and his people committed all of this oppression. So when he said, "I do not know of any God for you besides me," right? They accepted that. But also remember that to say, "I do not know of any God besides me," this statement is actually weaker than saying there is no God besides me, right? Because this means I do not know, right? I have little knowledge. And remember that even among blind followers, there are people who use reason. So now he attempted to sway them next. Right? He attempted to make up for any damage that he may have caused by making such a statement. So he said, فَأَوْقِدْ لِي يَا هَامَانُ عَلَى الطِّينِ. He instructed Haman to do something. To do what? He said, فَأَوْقِدْ لِي. أوقد, this is from the root waw qaf dal, and awqada is to light a fire. So, O Haman, you light a fire for me, ala teen, upon the clay, meaning for burning and baking bricks of clay. Okay, why make bricks of clay? Why bake them? فَجَعَلْ sarhan, and then use those bricks of clay in order to build for me a sarh, a tower. Right now, sarh is a building which is very tall. Okay, and it's also built very strong. So فَجْعَلْ sarhan, build for me a tower, a very tall tower. Why? لَعَلِّي أَطَّلِعُ إِلَى إِلَهِ Musa, in order that I may look at the God of Musa. Meaning, in order that I may go up and I look at, I become acquainted with, I see who this God is that Musa is talking about. وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّهُ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ, and indeed I do think that he is among the liars. Kadhibin is a plural of kadhib, someone who is lying. So he said that I think Musa is lying, but you know what? I am going to prove this lie to you by going up there and finding no God that Musa is talking about. This was Fir'aun's pathetic attempt, basically, to ridicule Musa alayhi salam, right? What he was saying is that I don't think the God of Musa exists, right? And you know what? But I'm still going to go up there into the sky and find out if I can see the God of Musa, right? Because if we can't see him, he's not there. We don't believe him. And this was his attempt to defeat Musa alayhi salam, right? To mock him also. Now, one thing we see over here is that he ordered Haman. And Haman was mentioned at the beginning of the surah as well. And we discussed about who Haman is. in verse number 6 of Surah Qasas, we learned وَنُمَكِّنَ لَهُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنُرِيَ فِرْعَوْنَ وَهَامَانَ وَجُنُودَهُمَا مِنْهُمْ مَا كَانُوا يَحْذَرُونَ. Now, Haman is not the one who gave these orders. Haman is not the one who was competing with Musa alayhi salam, who was ridiculing him. Haman is not the one who was saying such horrible, such atrocious things. But what was Haman doing? Haman was supporting Fir'aun. Haman was working with Fir'aun. And this is something that we really need to reflect over. That who is it that we are supporting? What kind of people are we cooperating with? What kind of works are we supporting? Right now, it's very obvious that if someone were to go up into the sky and try to see if there's a God, they're not going to see, right? Because we know that no matter how high we go, we cannot go beyond the first sky, right? Now, Fir'aun is basically making fun of Musa alayhi salam, and at the same time, he is trying to fool his own people, right? He's trying to convince them that there is no God besides me. And it's amazing how these people were fooled by Fir'aun. How it's amazing. How did they get played? And how is it that Fir'aun managed to play with their minds? Were they really that unintelligent? Were they really lacking common sense that they didn't see the truth of Musa alayhi salam, and that they fell, for these arguments that Fir'aun was presenting? It's not that they were unintelligent. These people built the pyramids. These people, wrote, their sign, their language, the hieroglyphics. They're the people who mummified their dead. They're the people who built storehouses, and remnants of their civilization exist today also. You go to any museum in the world and you'll find some kind of remnant that has come, some kind of artifact that has come from the Egyptian civilization. These people were not lacking intelligence. So what happened? What happened? How is it that they were convinced by Fir'aun? It's because they were blinded by their own sins, by their own oppression, by their own greed. Supporting Fir'aun meant these people would enjoy certain privileges. They would enjoy certain benefits, worldly benefits. They would benefit in the short term, and that is what they were greedy for. They didn't care about what the Bani Israel were suffering from. They didn't care about what the truth is and what falsehood is. They were only concerned about the immediate benefit that they could gain, which Fir'aun was facilitating for them. And this was their selfish nature, which caused them to become so blind. So we should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to see the truth. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a. That, oh Allah, give us the ability to see the truth as the truth, and then give us the ability to actually follow it. We should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana. Oh Allah, do not allow our hearts to be deviated. Because there are people who manage to, who really manage to lead people astray, and people who are being led astray. It doesn't mean that they lack knowledge, that they lack intelligence. No, the thing is that they are blinded by their desires. They're blinded by their sins, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from becoming like that. So what happened was وَاسْتَكْبَرَ هُوَ وَجُنُودُهُ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. So Fir'aun istakbara huwa. He was arrogant. And it wasn't just that Fir'aun was arrogant, وَجُنُودُهُ, and his armies even, his soldiers even, they were also arrogant. And notice now, it's not just the leader who is to blame. It's all the people who followed him, all the people who supported him. They're equal in their guilt, in their crime. They were arrogant fil ardi, in the land, bighayr al-haq, without any right. There's a couple of things we should appreciate over here. We should notice over here. By the way, the word junud is a plural of jund. Okay. Firstly, we see over here that they were arrogant in the earth. without any right, meaning they had no right to think so highly of themselves when they were upon the earth. And where is the earth? The earth is beneath the sky, right? The earth, the ground is beneath your feet, right? Meaning, for those who are low, for those whose reality is that they are on the ground, right, at such a low level, it doesn't befit them to think so highly of themselves. And this is something that we should remember. Anytime we feel very, arrogant in our hearts, we feel that, oh, I am better, I have this, I have that, right? I am so great. We should remember that, you know what? All greatness is for Allah, because we are upon the earth, the same earth that the rest of the people walk upon. The earth which is below the sky, which is low. So it doesn't befit us to be so arrogant. So wastakbara huwa wa junuduhu fil ardi bighayri al-haqq. Secondly, we see that we have no right to be arrogant. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, yes, He has chosen people, certain people over others, in the sense that He has given them preference in different ways. So there are people who are taller than others. There are people who have more knowledge than others. There are people who have more power than others. But this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's distribution, right? And because of something that Allah gave us, we should never think that we have the right to brag, or we have the right to belittle others, or we have the right to assume greatness. No, greatness is not determined by your height, or by your physical appearance, or your money, or your power. Greatness is not determined by that. Greatness, honor, is given by who? It is given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And real greatness is that which is in the hereafter, not in the world. In the world, we see people who, in their character, in their faith, or according to the laws that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has given, those people may not deserve any height, but still they are people of power. They are people of money. And we see Pharaoh. Did he have greatness? Technically, he did. In worldly terms, he did. But did he have real greatness? No, he didn't. Why? Because look at what happened to him. He was drowned. He was destroyed in the way. He was punished. His entire civilization was finished. So real greatness is not in the world. That is in the hereafter. So don't get fooled by the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, and because of them, never think that you have superiority over others, and you can mistreat them, and that you can think highly about yourself. So wastakbara huwa wa junuduhu fil ardi bighayri al-haqq. They had no right. Without any right, they were arrogant. And what was their arrogance specifically? Their arrogance was towards the slaves of Allah, right? We see that they humiliated the Bani Israel. They enslaved the Bani Israel. They tortured the Bani Israel. They killed the children of Bani Israel. They looked down upon them. This was, first of all, their arrogance, right? Against the slaves of Allah. And remember, arrogance, the sense of superiority, it certainly leads to oppression and mistreatment of others. So first of all, this was their istikbar. Secondly, they were also arrogant towards the messengers of Allah. Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, two messengers came to them, showed them clear evidences, but these people were too arrogant to accept the truth, right? They rejected the truth. And then we see that they were also arrogant towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you look at the kind of things that Fir'aun was saying. Look at his audacity, that I don't know of any God other than me. And build a tower. Let me go up into the sky and see if there's a God that Musa is talking about. And look at his audacity. So wastakbara huwa wa junuduhu fil ardi bighayri al-haqq. And why were they so arrogant? What was the reason behind all of this pride? It was وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا يُرْجَعُونَ. This is the real problem. They believed falsely, that they will not return to us, that they will not be brought back to us. This was their mistake. ظَنُّوا أَنَّ. You see, dhanna is to think, to assume. But when the word dhanna is followed by anna, it means to know or to believe. So they believed that they were never going to be returned to Allah. They did not believe in the hereafter. They did not believe that they were going to be held accountable for their deeds, that they were going to be recompensed for their actions. Because if they believed in that, then they would be careful. They would have some some sense to not oppress others. So وَظَنُّوا أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا يُرْجَعُونَ. And what was the outcome of this arrogance? فَأَخَذْنَاهُ وَجُنُودَهُ فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ. فَأَخَذْنَاهُ. So we seized him. Who? Fir'aun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seized him. وَجُنُودَهُ. And his soldiers. All of them. All of those people who supported Fir'aun. All of them were seized. فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ. And we threw them into the sea. Meaning they were drowned in the water. فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ. You see, nabadna, this is from nabada. Nabada is to discard something, to fling something. And, for example, there's a piece of paper, it's garbage, you don't need it anymore, you just, roll it up, and then you toss it into a garbage can. This is nabada. So, فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ. And it's not even worthy of being gently thrown in the garbage can. No, tossed in the garbage. And he completely discarded. They had no worth near Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَنَبَذْنَاهُمْ فِي الْيَمِّ. فَانظُرْ. So look, كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الظَّالِمِينَ. How was the end of the wrongdoers? What was their aqibah? And aqibah, this word we read earlier as well, final outcome, right? Consequence. What was their final outcome? You see, aqibah is from aqib. Aqib is heel, right? And the heel is at the back of the foot. So what was it that came after? What was their final outcome? What was the final outcome of the people who commit oppression? Were they successful? No, they weren't. They were destroyed. Everything that they built, finished. And now they're just a people who are mentioned, and their artifacts, whatever they left is seen. And yes, there are those who admire them, but there are those who curse them till today. فَانظُرْ كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الظَّالِمِينَ. And this is a further clarification of the fact that the people who commit oppression are never successful. Then it is said, وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ. وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ. And we made them أَئِمَّةً, leaders. What kind of leaders? يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ. They were calling, inviting people to the fire. This is what Fir'aun did. وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً. A'imma is the plural of imam. Now, who is an imam? An imam is someone who leads people, right? He says, follow me, and the people follow him. And think about, Salatul Jama'ah. The imam says, Allahu Akbar, and all the people who are standing behind him say, Allahu Akbar. Imam goes down into ruku', all the people standing behind him go down into ruku', right? The purpose of an imam is that an imam is supposed to be followed. And here we see that Fir'aun and his people, what were they doing? They were inviting people to the fire, right? This was their reality. And remember, it wasn't just Fir'aun and his junud who called people to the fire. There are many other individuals we have seen historically, and there are many people who are calling people to the fire. Do they literally say, come with me to hell? No, that's not what they say. They're calling people to such actions that will cause them to end up in hellfire. And this is why we have to be very careful. Who is it that we're following? And what is it that we're doing? Sometimes we don't, we're not critical enough. It doesn't mean that we have to criticize everything, everyone. Well, the point is, that before you participate in something, before you, you do something, you say something, uh, check. Is this even something worth doing? Is this even something which is correct? Is this something that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is this morally correct? Does this make sense? Does this make sense for me to do? Right? We have to be very careful. Unfortunately, we are all about following the trends. So whatever we see people doing, whatever we see people posting on social media, that is exactly what we want to do. Right? And we don't give it enough thought that is this Islamically correct? Is this something that would be pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have become such good imitators, such good followers of people, even though we like to claim, that I am very independent. I'm a very independent thinker. I have a mind of my own. In reality, we just say these things, but in reality, we're following people. We're all followers. We're all followers. So we need to see, who is it that we are following? Whose trends are we following? And I would say, even, check yourself. For example, on social media, who is it that you're following? Because whatever it is that you're following, even though you say, no, I just follow them to keep an eye, right? Check yourself, because whatever it is that you look at over and over again is what you will become accepting of, right? And one day you're going to want to give it a try. And then one day it's going to become very normal to you. So be careful. Take care of yourself. Who is it that you're following? Where is it that they're leading you to? وَجَعَلْنَاهُمْ أَئِمَّةً يَدْعُونَ إِلَى النَّارِ. Don't fall for popularity. Don't blindly follow anybody. Use the mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Use the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ لَا يُنصَرُونَ. And on the day of resurrection, they will not be helped. And Fir'aun and his people, yes, they had so much power and influence in the world, but look at what will happen to them on the day of judgment. They will become the weakest of the weak. How? That there will be no one to rescue them, no one to help them against the punishment of Allah, and they will be unable to help themselves even. And isn't this weakness, where a person is unable to defend himself and no one comes to rescue them? This will be the state of Fir'aun and his people, his armies, his soldiers. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ لَا يُنصَرُونَ. So the fact is that those who are arrogant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then such people are humiliated in this world and also in the hereafter. And we have to be careful that we never give preference to someone over Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That we follow people carefully. In Surah Hud, ayah 98 to 99, we learn that Fir'aun will يَقْدُمُ قَوْمَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَأَوْرَدَهُمُ النَّارِ. He will precede his people on the day of resurrection and will lead them into hellfire. Why? Because in the world he led them, they blindly followed him. So on the day of judgment, what's going to happen? He is going to lead them and they will follow him to hell. They will enter hell in his footsteps. وَبِئْسَ الْوِرْدُ الْمَوْرُودُ وَأُتْبِعُوا فِي هَذِهِ لَعْنَةً وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. In this world, they were cursed, and on the day of judgment also, they will be cursed. The Prophet ﷺ warned us. In a hadith, we learn that there will be leaders whose word will not be refused because of their fear. People will fear those leaders so much that even though those leaders are saying things which are completely wrong, completely incorrect, but still people will not refuse them. People will still obey those leaders. Why? Because they will be afraid of those leaders. And the Prophet ﷺ said, they will be admitted into the fire and some will follow others. Meaning such leaders will be entered, will be thrown into the hellfire, and following right behind them will be those who followed them in the world. So we have to be very careful. وَأَتْبَعْنَاهُمْ فِي هَذِهِ الدُّنْيَا لَعْنَةً, and we caused to overtake them in this world a curse. And in the world also they were cursed. So because of that, we see that their civilization could not survive. Because when the leader and the majority of the people, and they drowned in the water, what happened to those who remained behind? They couldn't survive. What happened to that entire civilization? The remnants are there, right? The pyramids are there. What they built is there. But the people who built them, the people who established all of that are gone. Why? Because they were cursed in the world. And we see that in addition to their humiliation and punishment, and that they will have in the hereafter, in the world also they're cursed. And they're cursed especially by people. And if Fir'aun is not praised for what he did, he is remembered for what? For the evil for the oppression that he committed. And he symbolizes arrogance. He symbolizes oppression, right? He symbolizes failure also. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ هُمْ مِنَ الْمَقْبُوحِينَ, and on the day of resurrection, they will be of the maqbuhin. Fir'aun and his people will be of the maqbuhin. Maqbuhin is a plural of maqbuh. And maqbuh is from the root letters qaf, ba, ha. And qubh is basically a state, such a state, the sight of which even is upsetting. It's repulsive. You look at that and it causes disgust and discomfort. Extremely despicable, extremely disgusting. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said that there will be those whose faces have been disfigured. On the day of judgment, they will come in with a horrible appearance. They will be made ugly, repugnant. This is what maqbuh is. And in the world, yes, perhaps because of the kind of foods they ate and because of perhaps the luxuries that they enjoyed and all the routines of self-care that they had, perhaps they looked extremely beautiful in the world. But what good is that physical beauty if on the day of judgment it's going to be converted into extreme ugliness? Astaghfirullah. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ هُمْ مِنَ الْمَقْبُوحِينَ. Some have said maqbuh means mub'adeen, and they will be removed and distanced from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning they will be cursed. So they will receive the anger of Allah, they will receive the anger of the creation, they will receive their own anger. And you imagine how angry they will be with themselves. So even though in the world they were very prosperous, on the day of judgment, they will look hideous. They will be hated. They will receive the hate, the hatred, the maqt, the anger of Allah, the anger of people, the anger of the angels, the anger of themselves. What failure is this? So the oppression which they committed, it didn't bring them any good. It brought them some enjoyment, temporary enjoyment in the world that was short-lived. But the final outcome was complete failure. And this is something that should cause us to reflect upon ourselves. That what ways am I using? What kind of things am I doing to get what I want? Sometimes we use prohibited means to get the house that we want to live in. We use prohibited means, clearly haram, prohibited means to enjoy the luxuries of the world, right? To gain certain advantages over others. But remember, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. The zalimun never succeed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from committing any kind of oppression against ourselves, against people, in the right of Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Inshallah, we will end over here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.